Welcome back to the program. So we're going to do one quick segment tonight. There is one person in particular that is running under the radar in the Trump administration, a Trump official appointed by Trump. And he has become, in a lot of respects, Trump's secret weapon. His name? Bill Pulte. Who is Bill Pulte? Well, he's the head of the FHA. He goes and oversees Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, okay, the two big government lenders. But he's also doing something else. Number one, he has access to all the mortgages. And number two, he's referring people for criminal prosecution because they are committing mortgage fraud. So in other words, when these folks like Adam Schiff and of course Letitia James and now Lisa Cook and so many more that are going to be coming, when these folks are committing mortgage fraud, what it's doing is it's opening them up for bigger investigations. It may start with some suspect signatures on a mortgage application, or perhaps maybe someone lies about the size of the building or home that they're buying to get a better interest rate, because of course there's different rates for non-owner occupied as opposed to owner occupied. Owner occupied is going to be a better rate than a non-owner occupied. A non-owner occupied is investment property. I used to be in the mortgage industry too, many years ago. And banks make decisions and offer interest rates based on what? Risk factors. So are you going to get a lower rate on a property that you buy that you don't live in? No, you're not. Why? Well, because there's a risk factor. It could be a second home or a third home, and therefore the interest rate would be higher. But also, you're not living there. So what happens to the property? What if it gets trashed? What if, they destroy the place and rip it apart and shred it and everything else? Again, that's why non-owner occupied rates are higher. But these sniveling idiot Democrats don't care because they think they're above the law. Well, they're not above the law. Bill Pulte comes from the Pulte family, the home builders, top 5 home builders, largest home builders in the United States of America. They've been around for 75 years, and he's one of the heirs to the Pulte fortune. Well, guess what? He's a big-time Trump supporter, and he is doing a lot of investigative work in mortgages, and he is specifically finding these Democrats. And when he finds these Democrats have committed mortgage fraud, whether it's trying to get a better interest rate, whether it's lying about whether they're married to their father when they're not, like James, or whether it's just saying that you live there when you don't live there, like Schiff and the rest of them, and Lisa Cook and all of them. And so what happens is it starts out with a little tiny thing. It's like pulling a thing of yarn off of a string, a ball of yarn, right? You pull it, and what happens? It keeps unraveling and unraveling and unraveling. And the next thing you know, that mortgage fraud investigation turns into obstruction of justice or prosecutorial misconduct or perjury or larceny or who knows what else, right? And that's what's happening. He has become the secret weapon for President Trump. And if you don't believe me, well, here's an article from the Wall Street Journal. Mortgage fraud accusations are Trump's new secret political weapon. New probes represent an aggressive variation of efforts to take down opponents. The Trump administration has a new weapon at its disposal in its efforts to take down Democrats and their appointees: mortgage records. Members of the administration have now alleged that at least 3 public officials have committed mortgage fraud, referring each of them to the Justice Department. The administration has signaled that it has just gotten started. U.S. pardon attorney Ed Martin was recently tapped to investigate fraud by public officials in mortgages, according to a letter Ed Martin was sent. The targets have denied, of course, any wrongdoing, but the probes represent an aggressive new spin on opposition research that has long dug into tax records and financial disclosures public office holders have to make. Mortgage applications go beyond the typical disclosure requirements. Another twist is the allegation that they're coming from government officials overseeing an agency, and they are able to access massive amounts of mortgage data. At the forefront of this campaign is Bill Pulte, a home builder heir that Trump tapped to lead the government agency that oversees Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the largest players in the mortgage market. At the historically quiet but powerful Federal Housing Finance Agency, Pulte has turned himself into a Trump attack ally, probing mortgages of prominent Democrats and Biden-appointed officials at the Federal Reserve. Pulte made himself the chair of Fannie and Freddie, which backed nearly half of all mortgages in the United States, and has taken an unusually active role at both firms. He partnered Fannie with Palantir, the data analysis firm co-founded by Peter Thiel, in a campaign to root out mortgage fraud. So that's interesting. So Trump appoints this Bill Pulte guy, and Bill Pulte is close with Palantir, which was co-founded by Peter Thiel, who basically got J.D. Vance's career started and financed his entire Senate bid and everything else, and of course is part of Silicon Valley, right? So it all kind of goes together. This past week, he alleged that Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook committed mortgage occupancy fraud. He said publicly he referred her to the Justice Department and then started calling for her to resign and be fired. Pulte had already been on a campaign against Federal Chair Jerome Powell, whom Trump has been pressuring to cut interest rates. Cook has sided with Powell in keeping the rates higher so far. The president said Friday that he is going to fire Cook if she doesn't resign. Look for her to be gone probably by the end of this week, would be my guess. And Ed Martin, in a letter to Powell, citing his role as mortgage fraud investigator, urged Powell to fire Cook himself instead of letting her, quote, serve with a cloud hanging over her head. The Fed chair can't fire governors. Cook said that she would, quote, not be bullied into resignation and that she would gather information to answer any legitimate questions about her financial history. Pulte has indicated he's gotten tips and used public documents to gather the information that he has handed to prosecutors. Mortgage occupancy fraud is when a borrower says that he or she plans to live in the property as their primary residence, even though it's likely a second home or an investment property that they do not live in. That can get the borrower in trouble, but it also can get that borrower better terms on the interest rate or the down payment. While mortgage fraud would carry significant penalties, it is rarely prosecuted until now. A White House official said that anyone who's engaging in criminal activity should be held accountable, and that Trump's only retribution is success for the American people. The Justice Department has already launched probes into similar claims of mortgage fraud against, of course, New York Attorney General Letitia James and Senator Pencilneck Schiff, both vocal Trump critics. Schiff's lawyer, Pete Bahara, called the allegations transparently false. A spokesperson for James has called them a weaponization of the justice system. Oh, that's rich, right? Both of those also started, and those investigations were put forward by Bill Pulte. In an appearance on Bloomberg, Pulte said he has, quote, made a lot of referrals for criminal investigations related to mortgage fraud, sometimes multiple criminal referrals per day. We are pouring through many of the tips that we are getting, Pulte said, we have seen an insane amount of tips on mortgage fraud. We are just getting started with our criminal referrals. So there it is, the secret weapon. So how are they bringing down the deep state? They're using mortgage fraud, and they're using what? Classified documents, right? That's what they just did with the raid with Bolton. So it's very interesting. And like I said, it's like the yarn. You pull a little bit of the string and it keeps going. So you open up the investigation in something mundane but serious, as in mortgage fraud. And you go, oh, okay, so you're lying on your, your thing, your mortgage application. So what else are you not telling the truth on? Now you're already under criminal investigation because you've been referred by Bill Pulte to the Justice Department, and now you have Ed Martin on your ass, who's a bulldog, just like Judge Jeanine Pirro, right? So then what happens? You look at the mortgage fraud, and then you go, hey, wait a minute. What else do you got? And then you start looking and finding and digging deeper and deeper and deeper. And then you're not just charged with mortgage fraud. Eventually, you might be charged with perjury. You might be charged with obstruction. You might be charged with a litany of other crimes. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. And again, Bill Pulte is continuing to do this daily. As the head of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, he has access to millions upon millions upon millions of documents of mortgages. Not to mention he's getting tips in each and every day. And yes, he is concentrating almost solely on Democrats. And why wouldn't he? What did they do for 4 years against President Trump and conservatives? That's all they did, was come after us for whatever reason. And we didn't have any crimes. We weren't the ones committing mortgage fraud like they are. So again, this is retribution. This is revenge. This is payback. Now, President Trump may say publicly, when asked by the prostitutes in the media, before he even became president again, are you going to go after your political enemies that went after you? And what did he say? No. He said, my revenge will be my success for the American people. And that is exactly the answer he should have given. And he did give. And you know what? Now that he's president, well, he can go after his political enemies. And this is not retribution necessarily. It's justice. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.